Hi everyone, welcome back to the Programming Fields. I'm Umesh Rana, and in the last video, we kicked off our journey into building a dynamic reusable form component with Laravel 12 and Livewire Starter Kit, in which we covered everything from setting up common reusable form, making it dynamic based on given form fields, handling form validation and real-time feedback, and even file uploads. Basically, we built the core foundation together. But we are not stopping here. In this video, we are taking it a step further and adding those real-world features that make a form truly usable in production. And we are going to add Modal Close functionality after submitting the form, because in the last video, we skipped this functionality. Also, we will reset this form so that whenever the form is submitted and the data has been inserted into the database, this model form should be closed and all the inputs alongside these error states should be reset. Also, we will add toast notification for better user experience. So after submitting this form, we will have one toast message appear here. And last but not least, we will handle view and edit functionality so that we will see the actual reusability of the same common form for these all functionalities, including create, view and edit functionality. And from the same pop-up, we will update the data into the database. So by the end of this session, you won't just have a working form, but you will have a fully reusable production ready form component that you can plug into any part of your Laravel project. So stick around because this is where things get really exciting. But if you have missed our previous video, please watch that first because this is going to be a continuation of that episode only. The link is in the video description and in the I button as well. And this video is perfect for Laravel and Livewire developers who want to build scalable, reusable form components, and also for anyone who is using Livewire Starter Kit and wants to extend it with real-world CRUD features. And for the developers who tired of repeating the same form logic again and again. Alright, then let's dive in. So I will start with this Modal Close functionality. So firstly, I will jump to the code editor. And here we have this user form data where we called common form component. So let me show you that. So in this user form view, here we called that common form, and here we passed all the data dynamically as a props. Now inside this common custom form, here we handled form submission alongside the validation and file upload. And after uploading the file, we are dispatching one event to the parent component alongside the form data. And again, this event is dynamic that we are receiving here as a props. So we are capturing this dynamic, okay? So that respective to every parent component, the submit handler will be actually written in the parent component itself. So in this user module, here we have this bleed and we added this submit event, and this event has been listened, which is defined inside this user form class. So here we have this on attribute, which is listening this event. And after listening this, we are handling the database insert operation. So firstly, we are generating the password for the user, and then we are inserting it into the user's table. Further, we were dispatching one event in order to display the toast, but we have not captured that toast in the front end in order to display this session message. Next, we have to reset the form. So I have called this function, but I have not defined this function here because from this parent component, we cannot directly reset the form inputs of the child components. So for that, we will have to reset the form data. Okay. So let's start with this modal closing first. Here I will close the model. So for closing the model, I will use flux modal function that we already saw. So here for opening the model, we already used this flux model show function, and inside this we passed dynamic model name that we want to open. Now in the same way, I will close this model by passing the model name. So here we have to pass that model name that we want to close. So we can get the model name from this model component, which is user form model. Let's copy this and let's add it here. Now after submitting this form, this model will be closed. But now we have to reset this form, and also we have to listen this toast in order to display the success or error message. So firstly, I will capture this response in a variable which will be like user, and here I will check if user is created. Okay, then this will dispatch this event which is toast, and also we have to reset this form. Right now, for resetting this form, I will create one custom function which will be like reset form, and let's define this function. So I will create public function reset form. This is our reset form function. Okay. Now inside this function, we have to reset the form fields. So if we'll scroll to top, here we have the form fields array, which we have defined here, and we were passing as a props to this custom form, which is common component. Now we have to reset these all form fields by iterating the fields array. So let's iterate it here in this reset form function. So I will write for each $this form fields, and inside this we have the fields array that we already saw. Right, inside form fields we have this fields array. So here this will be fields as $field. Now inside this we have to reset the field by checking the type of the field, which we have input or file. If it is input, then we have to reset it with empty string, but if it is file or image, then we have to set it null. That will specify it is an empty object, right? Because empty string won't specify the file is an object. So here we will check the file type, which is like if in array, because for the file we considered we will have type of file or image. Okay, that's why we handled two conditions everywhere, even in the custom form for this file handling, just in this way. Okay, so we can copy the same condition here. If field type is image or file, then we have to set it null, else for other fields we will have to keep it empty string. So let's paste this condition here. If in array field type is image or file, then we have to reset that. So I will reset these fields and will assign to a new variable, and that variable I will pass it as form data as in props. So I will define one more variable as public array form data. Okay, because in the form, if I will navigate to this custom form view, we bound the data in the form data key, right? So this form data variable that we have defined here will be responsible to populate the data over the form. That means when we'll click on view and edit button, so in that form model, we will populate that particular user data. And also we will initialize this with empty arrays, so that when we'll click on add user, initially we will have empty form inputs. And even after submitting the form, when we'll close the model, we will reset that using form data. Okay. So here I will use this variable as $this form data, and inside this I will pass the field name, which will be iterated from this fields array. and I will initialize it with null because this is for file or image. So here let me add one comment for file or image, reset input with null. Okay, but for other, so in the else part, we will reset all the form fields with empty string. So we can write $this form data, and again we'll have to pass the field name, and I will set this empty string. And this we have already used in the custom form even while mounting this form. So in the mount function, we already initialized the form data, right? So better we can use the same code here instead of checking in separate if else. This will be our short way. Okay. So this is done. Now I will copy this reset form function, and yeah, here we have already called it, and also we have closed this model. Now in the next step, after dispatching this toast, we have to capture this toast message and we have to display it in the front end. So for that, I will create one normal view component. So inside resources, views, components, here I will create one component that we can use for capturing this flash message. So I will create component as flash message.blade.php. Now inside this component view, I will create one div, and inside this div, I will use Alpine.js in order to listen that event, which is basically toast that we are firing from here. And I will listen it, and based on that event, this view will be rendered. Okay. So let me dock this window first. And here I will start with data attribute, and inside this, I will create one object, and inside this object, I will define show property, and by default, it will be false. So in Alpine.js, we can use hide and show property just in this way. And also we are sending message and type attribute from here that we will have to capture it. So let's capture message, and I will initialize it with null. Also, let's receive type and initialize it with empty string. Now further, we have to listen this event. So I will use x dash on toast, which is our event name basically, toast. Okay. So this toast dot window, and inside this, if it is coming, then I will set this show property to true. Okay. And also we have to pass dynamic message that we are getting from this toast. So let's assign the message from event dot detail dot message, and also we will assign the type from event dot detail dot type. Now I want, after a couple of seconds, just like 2 or 3 seconds, this div should be closed automatically, means that flash message should be disappeared. So for that, I will use set timeout function, and in this set timeout, I will set this show property to false, and this will be set in 3000 millisecond. Now we can use this show property here in this div. So after this code, here I will apply show property, and I will use that variable as show. Let me save it, and if I will align, okay. Now further, we have to pass the class based on the type. If type is success, then we have to set some green background something. Okay. So I will check if type is success, then I will apply ternary operator here, and I will use bg green just like 500, which is tailwind class. And else if it is error, because here I will set condition for two types like success or error only. If you want to set it for other like info, warning, you can add more conditions here. Now for the else part, I will directly apply bgrade as 500. Okay. Now apart from this, I will append a few more classes because we have to display this toast at the top right corner, right here in this section. So for that, I will bind few more classes here, which will be position fixed. And from top, I will set this to 5, from right 5, and I will set some padding from X as 4 and from Y as 2. And let's make it rounded and text white. Now in between this div, I will create one span element, and here I will render that flash message text. So I will use alpine text property, and I will render this message variable in this span itself. And let me add one comment here, common flash message. Now we will have to include this flash message component in order to display this message. So I will navigate to this sidebar component, and this sidebar is basically a common component which is rendering here. So better I will call that component in this sidebar itself. So just after this body tag here, I will render that flash message component. So I will call it using x-flash message. Okay, this is done. Let's save it, and let's navigate to this user form again, and let's review what we have done. Here we defined this reset form in order to reset this form data, and then we have called this reset form, and from here we are dispatching one toast event that we have listened here as a flash message. Okay, and further we are closing this modal, and here we will have to change this to close basically. Okay, so that this modal will be closed. This is done. Now let's navigate to the browser and let's test this application. So let's click on add user, and here, yeah, this form validation is working. Let's fill up this form quickly. New test user, and I will add email as new test user test.com. I will enter the phone number. Description is optional. Let's select nationality, and for this profile picture, currently we have not handled the file preview, so that we will handle it here. Okay, now let's click on create, and yes, on create the user has been created and modal got closed. Also we saw the flash message here. So this is working. Okay, now let's work on file and image preview. So let's navigate to this code editor, and here in this custom form we have rendered this file input component here by adding the condition if it is image or file, and we have displayed this info text just below that file input, right? Now just below this we have to handle the file preview. So just after this if else condition, let's handle image preview. So firstly I will check if not empty form data, which is basically data binding. Okay, and that we have defined here in this custom form. So if form data image is not empty, then here we have to pass form data field name in the form of array. If it is there, then inside this if block, I will open PHP syntax and I will get the file. So I will get the file from form data, which will be field name, and I will assign this in a variable which will be file. Okay, now for this file I will check if it is an instance of Livewire temporary uploaded file, and that we have already handled it here in this custom form here. Okay, if it is instance of temporary uploaded file, because we have to differentiate if the file path is coming from database, that means after uploading the file we are inserting it into the database, right? So on view and edit, that file path will be coming as a string, not as a file object. So if it is coming from database as a string, then we don't have to preview that. Instead, we will render that image in image element. But if the image is being selected here while creating it by clicking on that browse, okay, then we will have to display that preview. So I will check if file instance of Livewire temporary uploaded file. So I will copy it from here, temporary uploaded file, and we have to get it full path of this Livewire because that is our view. So in the view, we cannot use it directly. So let's add full path here, just in this way. And this will be instance of, right? If it is instance of this, then I will check this is temporary file, right? Which are going to be uploaded. And here we will preview the image only. So again, we will check if it is image only. So let's check if temp file contains image. So I will check if a string starts with function, and from this file I will get its MIME type using get MIME type function, and inside this I will check if it is image. Else we can check for other extensions as well, just like if it is JPEG, PNG, SVG. So for that we can apply regular expression by using preg match, and here I will apply regular expression. So I will check it for if the file extension is just like .png, or if it is JPEG just like this, or if it is GIF or SVG, and which is ending from this will check from the last, and let's pass the file inside this. Then we have to capture this as an image. So I will assign this in a variable as is image. Now if it is an image, then we have to get this URL. So what I will do, I will check if this is image, but inside this we have to check if it is temp file. Then we will get this file temporary URL from Livewire function, which is file temporary URL. Else if it is not temporary URL, then we have to get it from asset, which will be a storage folder, right? So from asset we have to get it from a storage dot file. This will be file path, else it will be null. Now let's capture this file URL in a variable just like URL. This is done. Now we have to render this URL in image element. So here after this PHP syntax, I will open one div class and let's set margin top of 2. Now inside this, let's check if is image. Then I will use image element, and in the source I will pass that URL. Let's add alt attribute just like image preview, and we can set class just like width of 200, and let's set the property as object cover so that it will take full width of that div. And also let's add rounded large. Now in the else part, if it is other file, because we have to handle it for both scenarios, right? Because this is our common component. So if it is an image, then this will be rendered in this image element, else I will render that as a link. So I will use href, and inside this I will pass this URL, and this will have target as blank, so that this will be opened in the new tab. And let's add the class as text sm text gray 600, and we can make it link by adding underline class. Now inside this label we have to display file name. That's why we have extracted the file. So I will display file here. Now let's save it, and let's navigate to the browser, and if we'll click on add form, now let's select any image here. So I will select this image, and yes, now when I've selected this image, I have this image preview. So this is working. Now let's go ahead working with view and edit functionality. So when I'll click on view or edit, I want to open this same model form. But for this, again, we have one challenge, because we have this common component for this table listing that we have already made it dynamic and reusable. So from there, we have to dispatch one event in order to handle the actions. So inside resources, views, Livewire, common, we have this custom table bleed, right? And here we already rendered these table headers and data, which are coming dynamically again. And here we have the actions button, right? So again, this is dynamic, and we are triggering this component from this users module, which is listing component. And we have called this here. And also we have passed few properties, which are columns, modal class, per page, order by key, and all. Now alongside these all actions, we have to pass one more props that will be basically event again, so that whenever we will click on these actions button, which will be like view or edit or even delete, we will have to handle those actions click on its parent component only. So what I will do from here, I will define one key as action event, and I will pass one event name as users table action, just like this, because this is our user module, right? Now we have to capture this parameter in this custom table class. So if we'll navigate to this app, Livewire, inside this common, we have this custom table. Now inside this mount method, let's get that key. So I will capture it in a variable just like action event. And we will have to define it here at the top. So this will be like public string action event, just like this. Now after passing that event, firstly we will have to add click functionality on these buttons. So here in this table, let's define one click handler for these buttons. So inside this for each loop of these actions, here I will bind one click event. So I will write wire click, and here I will define one common click handler just like action click handler. And in this event, we have to pass the data of the current row, right? So let's pass one data here in the JSON format. But in this action click handler, we have to pass the current row ID as well, alongside this entire action array. So if I will navigate to the listing component of this users module, here in the actions array, we have label, icon, color, variant. But we have to define a few more properties just like type, so that we can differentiate. If it is type of view, then we have to open the form in the view mode. Same thing for this edit one, and lastly for this delete, which will be type as delete. Now if it is model, then we can open the same model by passing the model name. So what I will do, I will pass one more properties, just like event type is model. Then this should open the model, and which model it should open? So let's add model name dynamically here, just like this. And for the user module, we have model name as user model, this one, which is user form model, right? So let's copy this and let's pass it here dynamically in this listing. Now let's copy these two lines and let's add for edit as well, because view and edit functionality will be opened in the same model and we will have to populate the data, right? Now regarding this delete, we'll come to this part later, because we have to create a common confirmation dialog, which will be a Livewire component again. And by confirming on that, we will delete that record, right? Now let's handle this in this custom table component. Now inside this for each loop, I will open PHP syntax, because we have to pass the current row ID as well alongside this action. So what I will do, I will pass this entire action as a props here alongside that user ID. That means that row ID. So for that, I will use array merge function, and in this array merge, I will pass this entire action array, which is coming from this dynamic props, okay? And alongside, I will pass row ID as a key, and in this I will pass current row ID, which we are getting here in this loop. All right. Now let's assign this in a same variable as action, and I will pass this action here as a props by encoding it in the JSON. So I will use JSON encode function, because this is a set of array and we won't be able to pass multiple fields just like this. If it is single, then we can pass it directly. But if it is in the form of array, we will have to encode it. So let's pass action here. This is done. Now we have to define this action click handler in this custom table class component. So just above this render function, here I will define public function action click handler. Now this is for action table action click handler function, and we are passing one array data, so that we have to receive it here as props, okay? And if I will put dump and die props here in order to check are we getting that row data. So let's navigate to the browser, and if we click on view, yes, we are getting that data alongside that row ID. If we'll click on second one on edit, yeah, we are getting this. So now again we will dispatch this data to the parent component, so that there we will handle based on type and model. If event type is model, then we have to fire this model, okay? Else if it is page, then maybe this should be redirected on a different page, so that you will have to handle it based on this condition. All right, now let's go ahead with this. So from here, we are already receiving one props as action event. So we will dispatch one more action event by calling this dispatch, and let's pass this action event. But before that, we have to assign it to this public variable. Okay. Now we can use $this action event, and we will pass this entire props as a parameter. Now respective to this, we have to listen this event in its parent component. So we will listen this event in this form component, which is our user form, because related to model opening and form handling, we have added all the functionalities here. So we have the flexibility to listen this Livewire event anywhere, right? So instead of listening that in the listing component, I will listen that in this user form component itself, so that we can save our lots of code here. Because if we'll listen this event in this listing component, we will have to write all the logic to get the data and passing this to the form. So anyhow, we are calling this custom form component, which is model, in this user form component itself. So it will be ideal to handle or listen that event in this component itself. So just above this function, I will define one function which will be just like action click. Okay. And just above this, we have to listen that event using on attribute again. And let's add that event, which is users table action. Let's copy this and let's handle it here. This is for table action click, right? Now in this function, we have to receive props as well, because we are passing props data, right? So let's go ahead with this. Firstly, we will extract types from that props, because in the data, we have passed a few more property, which is type. If it is type of view or edit and event type is model, then we have to trigger this model. So let's handle it accordingly. So from this props, I will get the type and I will initialize it with null. And let's capture this in a variable just like action type. Also, I will extract row ID from this props, which is row ID that we already saw. We merged that row ID in this array. Now, based on this row ID, I will make one query to the user model. So let's use user find function and I will pass this row ID. Now let's capture this data in a variable as user. Now we have to check if action type is view or edit, then we have to open the model by checking the event type. So let's extract the event type as well. Let's copy this key and we will check event type, which will be coming from props event type. If it is there, then okay, else it will be null. And also let's get the model name, which will be model name, and this I will get it from props model name. Now let's check if in array this action type is view or edit. Then I will set this user data in this form data array, which we have already defined at the top here, this form data, so that by using this form data, we will populate the data to the model form. So what I will do, I will assign the users data to this form data array. So I will pass ID and this I will get it from user ID. Next we need name, email, phone number, description, nationality, and this avatar. So let's pass name and this will be getting from username. Next we have email, phone number, and also let's check this form data name that we have passed here. So for the phone number, we have this phone number. Next we have this description. So after this, let's get this description, and further we have nationality and avatar. This is nationality. This is nationality. And lastly, we have this avatar. This is done. Now in the view mode, we have to set the mode to view, right? So for that, again, I will define one more public variable, just like public is view, and by default, this will be false. And I will check one condition. If action type, which is coming from that listing here, type, okay, if this type is view, which we have already extracted here, so if action type is view, then this is view will be true, else it will be false by default. Now we have to open the model by checking the event type is model. So this will be $this is view. Okay. So let's check if this action, which is event type is model and not empty model name. If we have this model name passed, then we have to trigger the model. Okay. So for that, we have already created open model function here at the top. I will call this function, and in this function we have to pass model name and action type. Action type like create, view, or edit, right? So let's call this function and we will pass these two parameters. So I will use $this open model function, and here we have to pass the model name and also this action type. Okay, this is done. Now let's navigate to the browser and I'll click on view. Yes, on view, this model has been triggered, but we are not able to see any data over here, right? Why? Because we set all the data in this form data, okay? But this form data is not passed as a props to that common form component. So let's navigate to this user form, and from here, let's pass that as a props. So I will define one more key as form field data, okay? And that I will receive from public form data, which we have already defined here, this form data. Now we will have to capture that in the common form, which is custom form. So after this event, let's capture the $array form field data, and I will initialize it with null. Now respectively, we will have to define this as a public form field data. Now inside this mount method, we can directly use this, so we don't need to define that as a public. Okay, so what I will do in this mount method itself, here while initializing this form data with empty values, firstly I will check if not empty form field data, that means if it is coming from database, then we have to assign the form field data in the respective input so that this will bind with those input fields. And for the else part, this will be empty. Okay, now inside this, let's remove these all things. These are not required, and directly we will get it from form field data by passing the field name, just like this. Because in this user form, we set all these fields like ID, name, email, phone number, description, nationality, and avatar, which is exactly matching from the form field name. Now, in order to differentiate the form state, because this form has been rendered in the mount, so by clicking on this view or edit, we have to remount this form so that on every mount we will have this data, right? for mounting this form forcefully by clicking on this view and edit, we will have to pass one key here while calling this component. So inside this user form here, after this, we will have to pass one more props as a key that will force the component to be mounted again on every clicks. I will pass the key dynamically. So what I will do, here I will check if we have form data, and inside that if we have ID that we have already set in this user form ID, right? If it is there, then okay, else the form will be open in the new mode, so the key will be new. Also I will concat few more things, just like if form is opened in the view mode, then this will have dash view something, else I will set edit. So the key will be just like, firstly it will check if the form data has ID. That means if view or edit button has been clicked, then this will have ID dash view or ID dash edit, else it will be new for create mode. Now let's navigate to the browser and let's try clicking on this view button. Yes, on view we can see the model form has been opened, and here we have some data rendered over the form like full name, email, but here we cannot see phone number, short description, nationality has been rendered. Maybe these are the old entries. So firstly I will add sorting here based on the created at date. So what I will do, in that listing component, here we have added sort by key as name. So instead I will change this to ID descending. Okay. Yeah, this has been changed and we already created some entries here today. Now if we'll click on this first one, yes, when we clicked on view for this user, we had phone number and description added into the database. That's why it has fetched from there. And also we have image preview that we already saved into the database. Now let's check for other one. This is for another entry. Yes, for this one also every fields are rendered. Now we have to add some conditions in order to set the form in view mode and in edit mode. So for that we have already defined one variable in this user form in order to check if the form is opened in the view mode, right? Now we have to pass this is view as a props in this parent component. So let's pass is view and we have the variable as is view. Now let's copy this variable name and let's navigate to this custom form component here, and let's receive one more props as boolean, which will be is view. By default it will be false, and let's initialize here as a public variable because we have to access this variable in this component blade file. So let's define is view, and here I will assign this to this public variable, which is view is view. Now let's navigate to this component blade, and here for every input I will apply a disable property just like this, and here I will directly pass is view. So if is view will be true, then this will be disabled. Same thing for select text area. And regarding the file, here we don't have to display the file upload functionality, so I will add one condition. If not is view, then only this will display this file input, else it will display the preview only. And regarding the button, let's hide this create button because we don't need this create button to be displayed in the view mode. So in this, I will check if not is view button type not equals to submit, then only this will render the buttons. This is done. And also at the top, we have to change the label, which is heading basically. And I guess that we are calling it from here, this create user and this description. So let's update this according to that each view condition. So here I will put one condition using ternary operator. If it is each view, then I will set this to user detail something. Else we have to handle for edit and create as well. So I will check it's set the form data because we are having this form data ID. So let's check this one. If this form data ID is there, that means the form is opened in the edit mode. So I will change this heading to update user, else it will be create user, and we will have this closing. This is done. And here also you can change this if it is edit or view. All right. Now if we'll click on view, yes, on view, we have this heading changed as user detail, and also the form fields are disabled and we don't have this create button. Now if we'll click on edit mode, yes, on edit mode, every inputs are enabled and the submit button is not visible. So let's check that condition. So inside this custom form for the button, we will have to remove this button type submit, that is no need to check. If we'll click on view it is not visible. On edit, yeah, this is visible, but we have to change that label. So here for this label, we have to check if we have form data, so that we can check it from here. Here we have this form field data, right? But we have not set this to public. So we will have to assign this here, $this form fields as form field data. Now we can check this here in this form. So I will use if it's set form field data has ID, then change this to update, which is common button text, else it will be label, which is coming dynamically. Now if we'll check it on edit, yeah, this got changed to update. Now we have to handle this update functionality as well, so that when we'll click on update, this should update this data. So inside this user form itself, we have handled this save functionality. So on update, the same function will be triggered, but we have to handle it conditionally here. So what I will do, I will check if not empty form data, because on view or edit, we are setting the data from database to this form data array. So if form data has ID, and we have to get it using $this. If not empty, then we have to find the user by using the ID and we have to update it. So let's find it using user find function again, and I will pass $this form data ID, and I will assign this in a variable as user. And if user is there, then let's update this user. So inside this update function, I will pass this form inputs data, which is coming from form. And also we have to dispatch event in order to display the flash message. So this will be type of success, and the message will be user updated successfully. And this will be for else part. So in the else part, we'll keep these 3 lines. Okay. And lastly, we'll have this modal close. This reset form will be for create mode only, because anyhow, after updating that, we are not resetting the form. So this is done. This is for update function, and this is create. Now let's navigate to the browser and let's check this edit functionality. So I will update the description here, and I'm not going to change any image as of now. I will click on update, and here this said this profile picture field must be an image. That means on update, this is still triggering the file validation. So that we have to handle it here in this custom form. So for this file validation, so here we are setting it in this mount. Okay, this is validation. So let's add condition again. If the file instance is temporarily uploaded, okay, then only we will apply the validation. So firstly, we'll check if in array field type is image or file again. And we have to check if the file has data which is coming from the database. So if it's set form data having field name, if it exists, then we have to get this value, and I will extract this value using $this form data, and I will get it from field name. Now I will check if not, this value is instance of temporary uploaded file. If it is not there, then I will remove that validation. So I will use unset function, and from the rules array which we have defined here. Okay, so from this rules array, this will remove the form data dot, and we have to append this field name, and this will be for else part. And same thing we will have to apply for unique email address as well, because on update, again this will throw error like this email has already been taken, right? So in the else if condition, I will add for email. So inside this else if, I will check if field name is email and it's set form field data has ID. That means if it is opened in the edit mode, then I will update the rule for this email. So I will write $this rules, in which we have to pass form data dot email key, and the rule will be like required email unique. And as of now, I will check it from users table, but you can set this dynamically, because maybe later you are checking this email field from some other table apart from the users. Then in that case, you can set this dynamically. All right. Now we have to append that user ID as well, which is form field data ID. And here this validation attributes will be for all. So we'll keep it outside. And here this will be $this form data. Now let's navigate to the browser, and if we'll click on edit, now let's update this description, and let's click on update. Yes, on update, this user has been updated, and here this has not asked for the image required, right? If we'll click on edit, yeah, we can see this description has been updated, and also this email. So this has not thrown error for email is already taken. So that's it for this video. We have enhanced this reusable form component in Livewire Starter Kit, okay? And we have made this form completely reusable for different modules and even for mode in create, view, or update. So if you found this video helpful, you can like this video and subscribe to the Programming Fields for more Laravel plus Livewire tutorials. And if you have any doubts or questions, you can drop them in the comments. I would love to hear from you. And stay tuned for the upcoming episodes. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.